A Stitch in Time. Once upon a time, in the delightful town of Maplewood, lived Agnes Whitaker. At the heart of this quaint community, where the seasons changed like a well-loved quilt and laughter mingled with the scents from flower-filled gardens, Agnes resided in her warm and cozy cottage. The cottage, with its weathered roof and sun-dappled porch, was a sanctuary where love thrived, sustained by decades of family moments and memories. Agnes was in her beloved sewing room, surrounded by vibrant fabrics that danced playfully in the gentle breeze filtering through the open window. The room bore witness to countless hours spent piecing together colorful squares and stitching enchanted creations. Today, the sunlight streamed through the glass, casting a golden hue on the remnants of worn-out pajamas, faded dresses, and even a pair of whimsical striped socks. As her hands skillfully moved through the fabric, the needle danced in harmony, and her thoughts began to wander through the tapestry of her life. Her gentle blue eyes softened as she recalled the vibrant laughter of her children, Daniel and Lucy, racing up the stairs after one of her legendary storytelling sessions. How they adored the stories spun from her imagination, just as much as they adored the skirts sewn from their favorite cartoon characters' prints. Each stitch created during those afternoons was part of a larger thread that connected generations. 5 years had passed since the death of her beloved husband, Harold. As time had gently swept away the harshness of grief, Agnes found solace in sewing. The act became a refuge, a way to channel her heart into tangible forms, transforming memories of resilience and joy into playful animals and cozy quilts. To the outside world, her creations might seem like mere crafts, but to Agnes, they held the essence of family, a collection of laughter, love, and perhaps a hint of sorrow. Today, in the solitude of her sewing room, Agnes decided it was time to bring the family together. After years of busy schedules and the hustle and bustle of life, she longed for the warmth of connection over a shared meal and stories laden with laughter. She would host a family reunion, inviting her children and grandchildren to celebrate the bonds that time sometimes overlooked. As she worked, the soft hum of a vintage sewing machine filled her ears, reminding her of the times when Harold would visit her in this very room, leaning against the doorframe with a cheeky smile and asking how she could possibly make something so beautiful out of discarded fabric. Those moments were imbued with love and humor, forever etched in her memory. Agnes paused to admire her handiwork. Among the creations strewn across her sewing table was a charming rabbit stitched from a pair of Lucy's old pajamas. Its ears flopped playfully to the side. "You'll love this, my dear," she whispered, imagining the delight on her grandchildren's faces when they discovered the little treasure. The sun dipped lower in the sky, shining through the window like a spotlight on her creations. With a renewed sense of purpose, Agnes made a mental list of what needed to be done: organize the picnic baskets, plan the games, and most importantly, conjure the perfect setting for a gathering that would inspire reminiscence and rekindling of ties. That evening, the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, filling the cottage with warmth. Agnes set off to the kitchen, basking in the satisfaction of her day's work as she prepared for the reunion. The whir of the sewing machine was replaced by the clatter of pots and pans, a comforting melody that spoke of home and nourishment. As the bread baked, her mind drifted again, imagining Daniel and Rachel's hectic lives, juggling work and family commitments. She hoped they would find time to join her. The thought stirred restlessness within her. The need to weave her family together felt more urgent than ever. Later that night, as Agnes settled into her favorite armchair with her knitting, she gazed at the quilt draped across her lap. Each patch held the story of a cherished moment. The vibrant colors reminded her of sunlit days spent laughing and cheering for her children. As her eyes grew heavy, she drifted into peaceful dreams, envisioning a day filled with laughter, and hearts intertwined like threads in fabric. Tomorrow would begin the journey toward unity, and Agnes could already feel the first stitches being sewn, a tapestry of love that would span generations. As she closed her eyes, the world around her dissolved into a realm where creativity mingled with family, and the promise of connection loomed bright on the horizon. The gathering storm. Daniel Whitaker sat at his desk, papers strewn about, crumpled designs clinging stubbornly to the polished wood. His weary eyes gazed blankly at the screen, a digital construction project named Office Tower flickering back at him. The soft hum of the city outside was drowned by the raucous cries of seagulls, and the distant clang of metal on metal made him yearn for the simple sounds of childhood days when laces were tied and bicycles painted the streets with laughter. Rachel peeked her head around the corner, her auburn curls framing her face and a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Hey, Mr. Architect. You ready to join the land of the living today?" Daniel chuckled softly, but the mention of life outside felt like a distant echo. "Just trying to figure out the right angle for this," he began, but Rachel waved her hand dismissively. "Just remember, it's your mother we're talking about. This is no ordinary gathering," she reminded him, crossing her arms and leaning against the doorframe. Daniel sighed, pushing aside the chaos of work to focus on the chaos that was their family. This was no small affair. It was Agnes calling them all together for a reunion. He half wondered if his mother had an urgent matter to discuss. When was the last time they had all been together? Daniel couldn't recall the precise date, lost in the fog of deadlines and demands. I know. She wants us all there. But we have so much going on." His voice trailed off, guilt creeping in. Raising teenagers while trying to balance his own dreams left little room for family. Rachel's expression softened as she stepped into the room, taking a seat on the edge of his desk. "You and I both know that the kids need more of Grandma Agnes. They miss her. And she misses us. Maybe this is exactly what we need to find our way back to each other." He recognized the truth in her words. They had become so enmeshed in their own struggles that they barely noticed the distance growing among them. A family devoted to themselves had inadvertently drifted farther apart. "Okay, let's make a plan," Rachel said, her voice now infused with energy. "We need to clear our schedules. Maybe we can combine a family picnic with an art project. That could be fun." Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, the kind of brightness that reminded him of when he first fell in love with her creative spirit. Daniel blinked, a flicker of interest igniting in his mind. "Art project? What do you have in mind?" "We can set up crafting stations, maybe sewing and painting. We could even include some of the stuff Grandma makes," Rachel suggested, her hands weaving through the air, detailing her excitement. "The kids need to see the magic of creativity, especially Emma. She's so wrapped up in her online persona, I worry she may forget how to create for herself." A knot of concern formed in Daniel's chest. He had noticed Emma's preoccupation with social media, aware that she often judged her creativity against the glamorous snapshots that flooded her feed. "Do you think she'll enjoy that? She's grown up so fast." "I think she needs a reminder of how to let go, to just be," Rachel responded, her tone gentle but firm. "Consider this a chance for all of us to reconnect, with her, with Noah, and with Agnes." Daniel leaned back, considering her words. Perhaps this reunion could revive some lost spirits. "All right, let's make it happen," he affirmed, a newfound determination washing over him. "I'll call everyone tonight." Rachel beamed, rising from her perch at the desk. "And I'll get started on the planning. I can even call Lucy. You know she'll have great ideas," she added with exuberance. The thought that his sister would be involved sparked hopeful excitement within him. Together, they could create something special. Later that evening, in the quiet warmth of their home, Daniel found himself seated at the table, phone in hand. As he tapped numbers into the dial pad, the shadows of self-doubt and dread flickered like an old film reel, reminding him of past awkward family gatherings and hesitant conversations. "Hey Rachel," he called toward the kitchen. "What do I say to Mom?" "Just tell her how much we're looking forward to it," she encouraged, her voice fading in the sound of sizzling pans. Taking a deep breath, he connected the call. "Hey Mom. It's Daniel." Agnes's excited voice came through, and he could almost see her hands busy at work, perhaps rummaging through her beloved fabric stash. "Daniel, I've been hoping to hear from you. Are you excited about the reunion?" A familiar warmth washed over him, calming the internal storm that had been brewing since he first received her invitation. "We're really looking forward to it, Mom. Rachel and I are putting together some fun activities for the kids." "Activities? Oh, Daniel, that sounds like such a wonderful idea. Do they know yet?" Her enthusiasm poured through the phone and wrapped around him like a hug. "Not yet. But I think they'll appreciate it," he assured her, feeling the weight lift off his shoulders. As he hung up the phone, Rachel appeared from the kitchen, a wooden spoon in one hand and a playful grin on her face. "What did your mom say? Is she ecstatic? He couldn't help but chuckle. Ecstatic is an understatement. I think she's already planning a handmade quilt for the picnics. The two exchanged looks of amusement, and for the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a shift within himself. Maybe this gathering could be more than just a reunion. It could be a rekindling of lost ties, a reminder of warmth, and an opportunity to stitch together the fragments of their family history. And as the sun began to set on Maplewood, he felt the swirling clouds part, transforming the gathering storm into a soft, inviting breeze. Hope began to bloom, one thread at a time. Threads of memory. Agnes Whittaker woke to the soft light filtering through her lace curtains, flickering like memories dancing in her mind. The smell of brewed coffee drifted into her cozy bedroom, reminding her of Harold's morning rituals. She smiled, a bittersweet nostalgia wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Today, she would embark on a journey down memory lane, piecing together the heartfelt stories she cherished. After washing up, she shuffled to the kitchen, where the day's excitement already began to tickle her heart. The faint sound of her favorite radio station played softly in the background, hosting a soothing blend of oldies. She poured herself a steaming cup of coffee, letting the rich aroma carry her thoughts back to the tapestry of her life. As she sipped slowly, her thoughts drifted to the memories she wanted to share with her family at the upcoming reunion. Every fabric she had ever sewn held a memory, a story waiting to be told. Perhaps this was the perfect moment to draw forth those memories and revive the essence of togetherness. With a renewed sense of purpose, Agnes retreated to her sewing room, where piles of fabric lay ready for her gentle touch. Each piece whispered of laughter and love, the swirls of her children's pajamas, remnants of camping adventures, and the vivid hues of birthday celebrations long remembered. She longed to weave together their shared histories, hoping they would appreciate the love sewn within every stitch. Agnes sat at her work table, organizing the fabrics as if threading together the lives of her family. She began with the soft blue material from Daniel's old favorite blanket. She recalled the way he would bury himself within it while devouring books about far-off lands. She chuckled, thinking of his childhood ambition to be an astronaut, only to become a practical architect instead. The irony made her smile. Next came Lucy's bright yellow dress, one she had sewn for a picnic years ago. Agnes remembered how her daughter had twirled beneath the sun, laughter spilling from her mouth as if it were a burst of sunlight itself. "Oh, my sweet Lucy," Agnes murmured, "how you filled our lives with joy." She savored the memories, each stitch echoing the harmony of their lives. Agnes delicately pulled out a tattered piece of fabric that nobody else would remember. It was from a faded shirt that Harold wore on their first date. A burst of warmth washed over her as she embraced the forgotten fragment, allowing herself to linger in the past. As she sewed, her hands busied themselves with the fabric, but her heart danced with recollections. She thought of family game nights filled with raucous laughter, of Christmases where the air hung thick with the scent of cinnamon and pine, and of the annual trips to the lake, where they would paddle in the water until the sun dipped low, creating a canvas of orange and pink above. But there were also echoes of sorrow, those moments that stitched fragility into their lives. She remembered the heavy silence that followed the news of her husband's passing, a primal pain that turned the world gray and hollow. Yet through that pain emerged a resolve to keep the family woven together, as intricately as the fabrics that filled her room. As the hours passed, her hands worked tirelessly, creating a patchwork quilt from the forgotten pieces. Each square she sewed reminded her of family bonds, affirming that even in the sadness, they were survivors, bound together by love and resilience. Late in the afternoon, Agnes decided to take a break from her crafting, leaving behind the joys and sorrows she had lovingly intertwined. She settled into her well-worn armchair, picking up the quilt she had recently completed. The quilt was more than a mere blanket, it was a timeline filled with fragments of life, ready to be shared with her family. After a timeless moment of reflection, she heard a knock at the door. It was her neighbor Martha, a kind-hearted woman who often visited for tea. As Martha stepped in, Agnes felt the sunlit warmth that radiated from her presence. "Agnes, darling, I thought I'd stop by and see what marvels you were crafting today," Martha exclaimed, her eyes twinkling. Agnes chuckled and gestured toward the sewing room, where colorful pieces littered the floor. "Just trying to stitch together some old memories." I'm preparing for the family reunion on Saturdays. Martha's expression turned thoughtful. Oh, how lovely. You always had a way of making those moments special. She stepped closer to the table, examining the quilt. This is beautiful, dear. Is there a story behind it? This quilt is woven from memories. Pieces from our lives, our family, Agnes said, her voice tinged with reverence. Each patch has a tale waiting to be told. Oh, Agnes, you have such a good heart. Martha replied, her voice warm and sincere. You're a treasure. Agnes felt the warmth of her friend's words wrap around her like a comforting embrace. Thank you, she replied, her heart swelling. As Martha listened intently, Agnes shared snippets of the memories sewn into the quilt, stories of joy, laughter, and love. As the sun began to set, the golden light enveloped the room, painting it in hues of hope and connection. That evening, Agnes tucked the quilt into a cherished spot in her sewing room, reminding herself that every thread was a commitment to family, a promise to keep the stories alive. With renewed vigor, she knew she would continue her work and prepare for the reunion. It was not merely an event but a gathering of souls, a celebration of the threads binding them all together. Drawing from the fabric of her heart, Agnes felt a surge of inspiration to ensure that, come Saturday, her family's stories would resonate through laughter, tears, and cherished memories, beautifully woven into the quilt of their lives. The overlooked artist. Emma Whittaker had always been a dreamer, her mind a kaleidoscope of colors, ideas, and endless stories. At 16, however, she felt more like a ghost in a swirling whirlwind, overshadowed by the bright screens and shimmering lives of her peers on social media. As she lounged on her bed, scrolling through her favorite influencers' carefully curated photos, a sense of inadequacy seeped into her thoughts. Each polished image served as a stark reminder that the world had moved on to a new language of art, one that she struggled to embrace. With a sigh, she tossed her phone onto the rumpled comforter. What am I even doing? She muttered to herself, pinching the bridge of her nose. Once upon a time, drawing and painting had poured from her like rivers of creativity. But lately, inspiration eluded her like a fleeting dream, replaced by the fear of comparison. Emma? Honey, are you coming down for dinner? Her mother's voice floated up from the kitchen, snapping her out of her reverie. She could hear the clattering of dishes and the scent of something aromatic wafting through the house. Just a sec, Mom, she called back, setting her phone aside. With the reluctance of an artist trying to find her muse, she pushed herself off the bed and made her way downstairs. In the kitchen, her family gathered around the table, animatedly discussing weekend plans and the upcoming family reunion. Daniel and Rachel exchanged light-hearted banter, while Noah quietly munched on his food, scribbling away in a small notebook. Emma slid into her seat, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I just talked to Grandma, Daniel began, breaking into her thoughts. She's excited about the reunion and has some wonderful activities planned. It'll be a great weekend. Yeah, we should help out more, Rachel chimed in. Maybe set up some crafting stations or games. It'll keep the kids entertained. Emma's mind wandered back to her half-finished painting in her room, but she felt a pang in her stomach. Crafting? Wasn't that what she had once loved? Everything now felt daunting, and she wanted nothing more than to blend into the background. You good, Em? Noah asked, his eyes darting up from his notebook. He had been scribbling poems lately, a silent confidence blooming within him that Emma secretly envied. Yeah, just tired, she replied, shrugging. Why don't you share your art at the reunion? Noah suggested. You could show everyone what you've been working on. I think they'd love it. Emma's heart sank as her family turned to look at her. I don't know, Noah. I haven't even finished anything I'm proud of, she confessed, feeling the embarrassment rise to her cheeks. Maybe Grandma will inspire you, Daniel offered gently. She's always looking for creativity in the simplest things. Emma offered a non-committal nod, hoping the conversation would shift elsewhere. That's it. We can set up an art corner, Rachel exclaimed, her enthusiasm upbeat as ever. It'll be a perfect way for everyone to express their creativity together. You can lead it, Em. A wave of dread washed over Emma. The thought of leading anything felt overwhelming, especially with her own artist's block looming so heavily. I'm really not sure. "Come on, Em," Daniel urged. "It could be fun. Besides, Grandma would love it if you shared something from your hearts." The idea lingered in her mind like a distant tune she couldn't quite remember, dancing at the edges of her thoughts. If only she could rediscover that spark that had seemed to drift from her life lately. Later that evening, after her family had retreated to their corners of the house, Emma found herself alone in her room, staring blankly at her art supplies. Brushes lay untouched, and tubes of paint collected dust as if mocking her. With a sigh of resignation, she picked up her sketchbook and flipped through past pages filled with sketches of flowers, landscapes, and imaginings that once came easily. As she turned to a new blank page, she froze. Blankness. A chasm of uncertainty lingered there, and it felt heavier than before. But what if she dared to try? She took a deep breath and began making tentative strokes, a swirl of colors mixing to form a sunset. With each pass of the brush, the weight lifted slightly as the colors danced across the page in swirling harmony. Hours slipped by unnoticed as the painting came to life, a reminder of her once vibrant imagination. Emma felt a glimmer of hope, a delicate thread weaving itself through her heart, urging her to embrace the overlooked artist within. The next day, after school, the idea settled deeper in her mind. Perhaps she could showcase some of her art at the reunion, but it needed something more, something from her heart. She rummaged through her mess of supplies, searching for inspiration. What if she brought a little element of Grandma's creative spirit into her work? Emma began conceptualizing the art corner not just as a place for showcasing, but as an interactive experience. What if they all created a collective piece together? A warmth unfurled in her chest at the thought. Maybe this reunion was not just about rekindling ties, but also rediscovering herself, the artist she longed to embrace again. Later that night, Emma closed her eyes, imagination dancing like the gentle strokes of her brush. She envisioned a world of colors, laughter, and connection, a beautiful patchwork quilt of memories yet to come. With determination brewing inside her, she slept soundly, excited for the adventure that awaited, ready to reclaim the artist in her soul. Ties that bind. The sun rose gently over Maplewood as Saturday dawned, ushering in the long-awaited family reunion. Agnes Whittaker stood in her cozy kitchen, the scent of freshly baked cinnamon rolls wafting through the air as she bustled about with a sense of purpose that radiated warmth. This was a day she had envisioned for months, a chance for her family to gather under one roof, to renew bonds that had tattered over time. With every roll she pulled from the oven, memories rushed back. Warm afternoons spent in this very kitchen, laughter like music echoing off the walls, and the spirited discussions that often spilled over into debates sprinkled with good-natured teasing. Joy surged through her heart as she prepared the spread meant to feed not just their stomachs but their souls. Unbeknownst to Agnes, tension simmered just beneath the surface, as families often carried unspoken disagreements. Daniel and Rachel arrived early that morning, parking their car in front of Agnes's cottage with a sense of unity, but a heaviness lingered in the air. "Do we have everything?" Rachel asked, her fingers tapping nervously against her thigh as she checked the checklist one more time. "Yeah, I think so. Just the art supplies," Daniel responded, his brow furrowed. He loyally helped Rachel fight her anxiety, steadfastly putting together a picnic table adorned with colorful paper and craft materials. Emma, inspired by her newfound courage, volunteered to lead the art corner while Noah wandered nearby, scribbling in his notebook. Even in their youth, the siblings felt the weight of unspoken expectations heavy upon their shoulders. Once settled, they could hear Agnes humming a melody from the kitchen, a familiar tune that stirred nostalgic warmth in Daniel's heart. His footsteps led him to her, an irresistible pull guiding him toward the epicenter of their family love. "Mom, it smells incredible in here," he exclaimed, peering over her shoulder as she added finishing touches to a fruit salad. "Oh, Daniel dear. I wanted to make this day special for all of you. It's been far too long since we were all together," Agnes replied, her voice brightening the room even more. "Speaking of together, do you think everyone is on their way?" he asked, a hint of apprehension curling at the edges of his words. "They're all coming, sweetheart. I promise," Agnes reassured him, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "This reunion will remind us what it means to be a family." Around noon, one by one, family members trickled in, creating a lively atmosphere filled with laughter and conversations that intertwined like colorful threads. Rachel embraced Lucy as she arrived, bringing her bright energy into the room. Agnes felt her heart swell at the sight, thrilled to witness the ties that had weathered time. As more relatives gathered, Agnes rejoined Daniel, who was surveying the art corner. Each creative station brimmed with color: watercolors, fabric, brushes, and paper waiting to be transformed. "Are you excited about the art corner?" he asked, unable to hide his anticipation. "I am," Agnes admitted, her gaze resting on the supplies. What if it inspires them all to create something together, just like the family dinners of olds? "Mom, look, here comes Emma and Noah." Daniel pointed, waving at his children as they entered, eyes scanning the new crafting space with curiosity. "Emma, Noah, over here," Rachel called, excitement evident in her voice as she beckoned them to join. Noah frowned slightly, muttering, "I'm not so sure about all this." Emma's enthusiasm, however, radiated from her, spurring Noah on. "Let's just try it, okay? It's gonna be fun." Emma's bright eyes held an irresistible sparkle, a reflection of her untapped creativity ready to burst forth. That same energy, however, seemed to wane as Daniel attempted to capture a sense of excitement throughout the gathering. The stakes felt high, and every little interaction felt weighed with unspoken tension. He watched as Rachel chatted with Lucy, unaware of the echoes of frustration simmering beneath her smile. As they settled in, Agnes gathered the family for a brief opening, her heart swelling with joy, but also with the responsibility of bridging the gaps between them. "You all mean the world to me, and today is a celebration of our family. Let's remind each other of the love and laughter that uphold us." As she spoke, she glanced over at Daniel. He met her gaze, a sheen of gratitude in his eyes for her unwavering faith in the importance of togetherness. All the while, Rachel busily organized the supplies, her hands shaking slightly, uncertain of how to soothe the tempest brewing in her heart. In that very moment, however, both Noah and Emma took to the art corner, while laughter erupted from the other side of the gathering, captivating everyone and drawing them closer together. Ties that had felt stretched now intertwined playfully, threading between cousins, siblings, and friends. "I'm really happy we're doing this," Emma said quietly to Noah as they began their first creation, a shared canvas where they could interact and express themselves. "Me too," Noah replied, his mood lifting as he began sketching ideas, his words spilling like poetry over the colors radiating from the canvas. Even amid uncertainty, family ties began to reshape under the sun, threaded together with stories and laughter. The fabric of each cherished moment knit itself into a beautiful tapestry, with Agnes's heart woven at the center. A reminder that the love they shared would always bind them, no matter the distance or silence that might come between them. As laughter permeated the air, and unexpected moments of joy emerged, Daniel felt a lightness being cast across the gathering. The undeniable threads of love softened the edges of tension, allowing him to believe deeply that today would take them closer than ever before. A family affair. The day of the family reunion dawned bright and promising, with the sun casting a warm glow over Maplewood. Agnes Whitaker's cottage buzzed with cheerful energy, an oasis of familial love that awaited the return of long-cherished traditions. With food filling the table and art supplies prepped for creative expression, all that remained was the arrival of family. As Agnes set out trays adorned with colorful fruit, she felt a wave of pride wash over her. She wanted each guest to feel embraced by love as they walked through her door. The spirit of this gathering filled her heart with hope, a hope that her family would rediscover their connections, strengthen their bonds, and create new memories. The first to arrive was Lucy, her daughter, a whirlwind of excitement. "Look at everything, Mom. It's gorgeous," she exclaimed, eyes sparkling as they swept across the spread of casual elegance. Lucy wore a vibrant floral dress, embodying warmth and energy, a reflection of her mother's creativity. "Thank you, dear. I wanted today to be extra special for everyone," Agnes replied, offering a warm hug that saw them both through decades of memories and love. Before long, other family members rolled in. Daniel and Rachel arrived, 2 bags of supplies in tow, their faces a mix of excitement and concern. "We brought an assortment of crafting materials. I thought we could add some fun elements to the art corner," Rachel said, her smile hiding the hint of stress underneath. That's wonderful. The more the merrier, Agnes replied, her heart swelling at the sense of being surrounded by family. Emma and Noah joined them next, their faces bright with anticipation. Emma, buzzing with creative zeal, surveyed the art corner, while Noah clutched his notebook, contemplating whether to share his poems. As the last few relatives trickled in, laughter and chatter filled the air, and Agnes gathered everyone for a brief welcome. Thank you all for being here today. Family is the thread that binds us, and I hope this reunion reminds us of that, she spoke, her voice warm and inviting. Now, let's dive into a day of creativity, laughter, and love. The art corner quickly transformed into a center of hilarity and work. Guests enthusiastically grabbed brushes, canvases, and supplies set up by the children. Rachel deftly took charge, organizing families into smaller groups. Her heart raced with determination, wanting everything to go perfectly, perhaps a reflection of her own longing to create a cohesive family unit. Emma, why don't you show everyone how to paint a sunset? Rachel called, catching the somewhat shy artist off guard. Emma hesitated, glancing at Noah, who nodded, encouraging her to embrace her moment. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped forward. Okay, everyone. Grab your paintbrushes and let's create something beautiful together, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. At the same time, Noah found his voice and bravely shared one of his poems. As he read, the words flowed effortlessly from him, painting scenes in the minds of everyone present. Hearts began to connect, and the atmosphere thickened with creativity and joy. Amid the laughter, Agnes lost herself in the small moments. The way everyone engaged, how they laughed at the silliness of the paints smudged across faces, and the playfulness of children dashing about with sketchbooks in hand. They were stitching together new stories, blending color with shared experiences, much like the quilt she had been sewing for the last few weeks. Amid the day's charm, however, a vein of uneasiness swirled through Daniel and Rachel. They had spent the morning battling the uphill struggle between their own expectations and the growing gap between them. Daniel watched as Rachel secretly flinched at the laughter they shared, each burst feeling tinged with unspoken frustration. I just want everything to be perfect, Rachel murmured, her eyes darting between Emma and Noah. What if this doesn't go how we planned? Daniel took her hand despite the chaos around them. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're allowed to embrace imperfection and simply enjoy our time together, he reassured her, gentle but firm. Rachel nodded, but doubt lingered in her eyes. The noise from the art corner echoed, bringing forth vivid colors, laughter, and camaraderie that made her heart ache. She longed for that sense of effortless connection with Daniel. Let's join them, he urged, drawing her toward the canvas where Emma shared brush techniques through strokes and laughter, all while everyone appeared to be enjoying themselves. All right, Rachel finally agreed, though inside, tension still pressed against her heart. As the sun dipped low and the shadows grew longer, Agnes decided it was time for another family gathering, a seated picnic outside on the front lawn. She called everyone together, lifting her voice above the cheerful ruckus. Family, it's time to take a break and share a meal. They spread a large blanket across the grass, joining together in a circle filled with food and connection. As everyone dug into the plentiful spread Agnes had prepared, newfound friendships filled the air alongside the food. This is delicious, Lucy exclaimed, taking another roll. Agnes, your baking talent never ceases to amaze me, Daniel said, a hint of gratitude in his voice. Amidst munching and laughter, Noah spoke up, his voice earnest. I think we should do this more often. The family art corner is fun. Agnes beamed, glancing around as her family nodded enthusiastically, their hearts warmed by the feast and each other's company. As the sun slowly dipped below the horizon, coloring the sky in brilliant hues, conversations grew deeper. Emma and Noah began to share their own creations, allowing everyone a glimpse into the new lives they were leading, revealing both their achievements and struggles. The ties that had once felt frayed seemed to stitch together once again. Memories entwined within laughter, creativity blossoming, and connections made anew. As the day approached its end, Agnes felt fulfillment wash over her. It was shaping up to be the reunion she had longed for, and she sensed the invisible threads of love slowly knitting her family together again. In the quiet after the meal, as the last bites of dessert faded, Agnes could see her family's faces illuminated with joy, a beautiful tapestry woven together through love, laughter, and the enduring ties that bind them. Handcrafted connections. The reunion had quickly turned into a vivid landscape of laughter, paint splatters, and joy as family members dove into creativity with an enthusiasm that warmed Agnes Whitaker's heart. With the sun dipping lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the turnout, the art corner had flourished into a tapestry of expressions. Canvases alive with colors reflecting both the characters of those who had painted them and the bonds between them. Agnes watched as Rachel and Lucy collaborated on a collaborative project, painting a magnificent sunset that spread across 3 canvases. Their laughter rang out melodically, harmonizing with the vibrant strokes of paint. It reminded Agnes of the summers when the girls would spend hours painting on the porch, completely lost in their worlds of creativity. They could hardly be pulled away to join the family dinners. "Look at those colors," Agnes whispered to Daniel, who stood beside her. "They're beautiful together, just like they used to be." "Yeah, it's great to see," Daniel replied, a broad smile on his face. "Especially after everything that's been going on." Agnes knew he meant the underlying tensions between Rachel and him, which had remained almost unnoticeable during the reunion, hidden beneath the hum of charm and creativity. She felt a part of her throat tighten with concern, but quickly focused back on the joy around them. Emma, as if on cue, emerged from the cluster of laughter, her paint-stained hands raised triumphantly. "Grandma, can I show you what I made?" Her voice rang with bright confidence, tinged with a hint of nervousness, as if she were eagerly awaiting validation. "Of course, sweetheart. I would love to see," Agnes encouraged, crouching down to meet Emma's eager look. Emma guided her to a circle of easels painted wild with colors. "I combined the techniques we talked about, and it turned into this." She revealed her latest masterpiece, a swirling depiction of a field filled with wildflowers under an elaborate sky. Agnes studied it, her heart swelling with pride. "Oh, Emma, this is incredible. You've captured such emotion in your colors. I can see your joy in every brushstroke." "Really? You think so?" Emma's eyes sparkled, and a beaming smile slowly crept across her face. Encouraged, she added, "I actually thought about how you make things special and how I used to paint as a kid. It felt great to do it again." Agnes smiled knowingly. Those simple moments of encouragement meant everything. Art is about expressing yourself, and it's wonderful to see you pour your heart into it again. You know, creativity is a gift we share in this family. As they admired the art, Noah approached them, holding his notebook filled with poems. "Emma, can I read you something?" he asked hesitantly, his fingers gripping the edge of the pages, betraying a nervousness he hadn't shown before. "Of course. I'd love to hear," Emma replied, her excitement igniting as she clapped her hands together. Noah cleared his throat, his brow furrowed slightly in concentration. "This poem is about family, our family, and how it ties us all together," he recited, his voice gaining strength as he spoke about lives intertwined through bonds of love and laughter. In that moment, Agnes felt the threads of their lives weaving together once more, taking a form that felt rich and lasting. She looked at her grandchildren, feeling their youthful joy infuse the air around them. After Noah finished, Emma clapped her hands, her excitement palpable. "That was amazing. You captured it perfectly." She turned to Agnes and said, "We must bring our poems and paintings together to create something special." Agnes beamed, sensing an idea bloom before her very eyes. "You're right, dear. What if we combined our art, a massive mural of our lives in the family painting corner?" Everyone nearby perked up, intrigued by the idea. "We could paint a giant canvas together," Lucy exclaimed, her infectious spirit igniting everyone's enthusiasm. "We can all contribute something meaningful, show what our memories mean to us," Rachel added, feeling the energy in the air shift in a positive direction. "Noah can write the words, capture our stories in verse," Emma suggested. "I'm in," said Noah, his confidence lifting. As the murmurs of agreement spread among the family, excitement replaced hesitation. "You guys don't know how much this means to me," Agnes said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's been too long since we've forged something together. This will be a cherished memory." Within buzz created in the air, everyone grabbed brushes and canvases, easily swept up in the wave of exhilaration. Daniel, inspired, joined in on the excitement as he grabbed a palette full of colors, beginning to help guide the younger kids, sharing tips and insights that reminded them of when they had gathered to create a small art fair in their childhood. Agnes stepped back to watch, her heart dancing at the sight of the family collaborating, weaving their life stories into a collective expression. Each stroke of the brush represented memories, feelings, and connections, unspoken ties binding their hearts more tightly together. As the sun dipped lower, casting an amber glow over their masterpiece in progress, laughter erupted, filling Maplewood with warmth. Despite the undertones of uncertainty between Rachel and Daniel, the joy in making art provided a sense of unity, at least for now. "Look at the blending. Our colors are starting to mix together," Lucy exclaimed, innocently reflecting the nexus of each family member contributing to excitement. "Yes, it's all starting to come together," Rachel chimed in, finally letting her guard down, buoyed by the laughter and love swirling around the canvas. For Agnes, nothing could capture the essence of family quite like this. They were connected in ways that stretched beyond blood, woven together like the colorful threads within a quilt. As they painted, laughter danced like flame and joy began to stitch itself into the very fabric of their lives, reconnecting hearts long thought scattered. And amidst that vibrant mess of color and stories, it felt like love was being handcrafted with every shared laughter, every stroke of a brush, as family bonds tightened in ways that could only be captured through art created together, a tapestry of joy that would last for generations. The unraveling. The laughter and joy that had filled the reunion began to wane as dusk settled over Maplewood, giving way to a cooler breeze that rustled the leaves and whispered secrets of change. Agnes stood at the edge of the grassy knoll, surveying the colorful mural of memories that had blossomed under the sunlight. Her heart was full, but a heaviness lingered in the air, an undercurrent of tension that had begun to ebb toward the surface. As the last strokes of paint dried, guests began to gather around the picnic tables, their bellies full but hearts heavy with unspoken words. Daniel, however, avoided the subtle stirring of discomfort, lingering near the art corner to admire the collaborative mural that had taken shape. Each brush stroke demanded attention, capturing moments in vibrant colors. Yet, behind the beauty lay unresolved feelings threatening to unravel the once joyous atmosphere. "Hey, Daniel. Let's grab some dessert," Rachel called, but her enthusiasm barely masked the tightness in her voice. "Sure," he replied, aware her smile seemed forced as they navigated toward the dessert table. The table overflowed with homemade pies and cakes, yet Daniel felt no hunger. Instead, his mind spun with the weight of the day. Rachel stood beside him, an unspoken tension swirling around them like the evening chill. He sensed the shift within her, an anxiety that seemed to grow with every passing moment, echoing the words they hadn't spoken. As they filled their plates, low murmurs turned to boisterous discussions, and laughter sprinkled among family members. Yet Daniel couldn't shake the feeling of unease with Rachel. He took a bite of pie, confection sweetness colliding with a taste of bitterness, an accurate reflection of their situation. "Everything seems great, right?" Rachel attempted, but the tremor in her voice revealed her insecurity. She forced a smile, but her eyes betrayed her. "Yeah, it does," Daniel replied, though unease lingered. "But we both know there's more beneath the surface." Rachel's silence screamed louder than words. She grabbed a fork, cutting into her pie with unnecessary force. "You're still worried, aren't you?" she countered, frustration rising in her chest. "What do you mean?" His brow furrowed, trying to gauge where this was heading. "It's like you're drowning in your own thoughts, and I don't know how to reach you. Here we are, surrounded by family, and yet it feels like we're miles apart," she exclaimed, her voice echoing too sharply in the fading light. Daniel's heart sank. The tension they had hoped to bury beneath the joyful spirit of the reunion crackled to life. "I'm sorry if it seems that way. I'm trying to put everything aside and enjoy the moment. But there's a weight on my heart too." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away defensively. Rachel sighed and turned away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I wanted this gathering to heal us, but instead, it just feels like an act," she lamented quietly, glancing at the mural behind them where laughter bubbled amidst paintbrushes and vibrant strokes. He hesitated, searching for the right words to bridge their widening gulf. It doesn't have to be an act. Maybe we've lost our way in the day-to-day bustle. Perhaps we could use moments like this to really talk, to understand why we've drifted apart. You don't get it, do you? I am tired of simply talking. I want to feel like we're a team again. Life shouldn't feel like this much effort. Her voice trembled with emotion, an avalanche of frustration spilling forth. Then let's work on it. We need to figure this out instead of emotionally checking out and pretending it's all fine, he snapped, reflexively defensive. Rachel's eyes widened. So, what? You think it's that easy? You think we can just paint over our problems? Maybe we're not fully facing them because we're too afraid to dive deep, Daniel replied, the weight of the past few months crashing over him. We need to confront the real issues between us, before they unravel everything we've built. Around them, laughter erupted again, but the contrast between joy and tension felt sharper than before. Daniel wished for an escape, away from the fledgling intimacy of their disagreement. Instead, he remained rooted to the spot, unwilling to let their relationship slip further into disarray. Suddenly, Emma and Noah appeared, breaking the tension, both proud of their collaborative art project and filled with excitement. Look at it, everyone, Emma called, beaming. We added more flowers and a big sun. Rachel tried to muster a smile for them, but Daniel could see her resolve waver, the cracks in her facade growing larger. As he gazed upon their children's faces, a wave of disappointment washed over him. Here they were, siblings crafting memories through brushstrokes, while he and Rachel stood on the brink of their own unraveling. Noah, do you remember your poem about connections? Emma asked, prompting her brother with excitement. He nodded, feeling the weight of their family's energy shift as he spoke. My poem is about how we tie ourselves to each other with love, he recited, his clear voice echoing across the gathering. Though life unravels us at times, we must weave again, together. Daniel and Rachel exchanged a glance, a jolt of realization sparking between them. The simplicity of Noah's words hung in the air like a resonant truth, a reminder that threads of love could bind them, even in their darkest moments. As Noah finished, applause erupted, breaking the tension that had developed between Daniel and Rachel. Their hearts softened, opening pathways for discussion once more, inspired by their children's raw wisdom. That evening, as the stars began to blanket the sky, they both knew they had reached a crossroads. The performance act of a perfect family had cracked, revealing the raw emotions of reality, but in those fractures lay the potential for healing. With the feeling of possibility lingering, they walked away from the crowd, hand in hand, ready to confront the challenges ahead. And as they stepped further into the night, they realized that unlocking vulnerability could weave a stronger bond than any perfect canvas ever could. They were no longer just neighbors in their own lives, but partners willing to craft the next chapter together. Patchwork promises. As the stars twinkled above Maplewood, Agnes Whitaker watched her family gather around the communal fire pit in her backyard, their faces illuminated by flames that danced like memories flickering in time. The laughter and chatter filled the cool evening air, a comforting backdrop to the heaviness that still lingered at the edges of the day. The mural they had collectively painted stood proudly nearby, drying in the embrace of the twilight. It held echoes of creativity and love, a vivid reminder of their unity amidst the shadows of unspoken tensions that had surfaced between Daniel and Rachel. Agnes felt proud, yet her heart ached at the thought of their struggles. All right, everyone. Daniel called from the fire pit, a touch of hesitation threading through his words. Gather around. We're going to make esmeraldas. His attempt at lightheartedness was admirable. Marshmallows roasted by the fire would bring some joy, but he sensed the weight of the earlier quarrel still hung in the air, unaddressed. Can we just roast them without the drama this time? Rachel interjected softly, feigning a lightness that failed to mask the unresolved tension between them. Let's focus on the kids, Rach, Daniel replied, a hint of softness in his voice. They need to see us laughing, not distracted. He glanced around, catching glimpses of Emma and Noah who were clearly still buzzing from their artistic success. Agnes moved closer to the kids as they huddled by the fire, curious and eager. What do you think of our mural? She asked, her eyes sparkling. It's awesome, Grandma, Emma exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with excitement. We can really see how the colors blend together. It's like our family. Yes. And it feels like a giant quilt, Noah added with a broad smile. Just like the one you made me when I was a baby, Emma replied, her eyes alight with joy. Agnes's heart swelled with emotion as she absorbed their innocent enthusiasm. You're right. Family can feel like a patchwork quilt, each square representing a different moment, stitched together through love. And it takes all of our keepsakes to make it complete. Noah leaned closer, intrigued. Can we make our own patches next time? Absolutely, Agnes said, delighted by the idea. You can each create a square that represents you. Then we can sew them together into a new quilt. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Daniel caught Rachel's eye as Agnes talked about their shared creativity, and he whispered, maybe we could do the same with our conversations. Start with little pieces and build something whole. Rachel swallowed, a flicker of hope crossing her features before she turned her gaze back to the fire. I like that idea. Just small steps, right? Agnes couldn't help but overhear their quiet exchange and sensed an opportunity. You know, it's not just about the quilt or the patches we create on fabric, she said gently but pointedly. Every promise we make, whether spoken or unspoken, binds us together. Just like each thread in our quilt creates a beautiful tapestry. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Daniel admitted. Life happens, and we get so caught up we forget how to keep those promises. Rachel nodded, her voice trembling slightly. I remember when we used to keep promises easy. Remember the dreams we shared when we were younger? We'd laugh over esmeraldas by the fire, and life would feel simple. Daniel's gaze softened as he listened to Rachel's heart emerge from beneath the surface of her concern. This was a brave and hopeful space, one that could allow them to acknowledge their fears while still embracing the warmth of family. Maybe we can recapture those moments, he suggested, gesturing to the flames, now swirling with orange hues. Start a new tradition each reunion. Not just painting, but sharing pieces of our lives. Like a family story time? Emma chirped, eyes wide with excitement. With promises tied into those stories, Agnes added warmly, that connect our hearts as tightly as our patches will one day connect our quilts. The family began to share snippets of their lives, the good, the hard, and the innocent moments that shaped them. Laughter bubbled up with stories from childhood mischief, heartwarming recollections sprouting alongside the glow of the fire. I promise I'll share my first big painting at the next reunion, Emma declared with childlike optimism. And I promise to always write more poems for us to share, Noah added, a sense of serious pride gleaming within him. Daniel, emboldened by the brave declarations of his children, spoke next, quietly yet firmly. I promise to be more present, to actively listen, because it's moments like these that matter most. Rachel's breath hitched, and she covered her mouth in surprise before whispering, I promise to encourage us all, with our creativity, our passions, even when it gets tough. Agnes smiled proudly at the gentle exchange. And I promise to keep us gathering, to help make these moments happen. Our family deserves to embrace every thread, no matter how difficult things may feel. As fireflies began to twinkle around them, the intricate tapestry of their family was beautifully illuminated. Each promise stitched a bond that would hold them tighter as a family, and in that moment of vulnerability and honesty, they felt a renewed strength. Perhaps not every patch would match perfectly or come together seamlessly, but each promise held the power to bind them, to forgive, and to move ahead. With night falling deeper, they all looked at one another and felt stronger together, reaffirming their patchwork vows. They were a family, imperfect but intricately woven, colorful and full of potential. And amid the warmth of those flames, their love flickered brightly, unfurling like threads ready to create something extraordinary. The fabric of togetherness. The sun had risen high over Maplewood, casting a warm, golden light that kissed the mural created during the family reunion. Agnes Whitaker stood at her kitchen window, looking out at the vibrant canvas, her heart swelling with pride. The mural was more than just a collection of colors. It was an embodiment of their love, artistry, and renewed connections as a family. Each stroke told a story, each color represented a memory, and every face illuminated with joy was a testament to the power of togetherness. Gathering her thoughts, Agnes prepared a hearty breakfast, the warmth of the oven filling the air with the scent of freshly baked muffins. She hummed softly, feeling a sweet anticipation for the day ahead. Somehow, she knew that their newfound connections needed to be nurtured further, and today's offering would serve as the foundation. A family day dedicated to healing and growing together. As the family trickled into the kitchen, she greeted them with smiles, and they began to gather around the large wooden table. Daniel and Rachel entered first, sharing a glance that hinted at the challenges they had faced the previous evening, yet the warmth between them felt palpable. "Morning, everyone," Rachel said, optimism laced in her voice. "I hope you're all ready for a day of creativity." "Absolutely. I can't wait to see what you have planned," Daniel replied, the tension from last night appearing to thaw with each shared smile. As the rest of the family joined in, Lucy, Noah, and Emma, the excitement in the air was infectious. Buttered muffins and steaming cups of coffee filled the table, creating a cozy atmosphere that echoed the feelings of intimacy and bonding they all craved. "All right, my dears," Agnes said as everyone settled in. "Today is about taking what we've started and nurturing it. We've painted a beautiful mural, but we need to ensure these moments continue, like threads in the fabric of our families." The children giggled as they eagerly dug into their breakfast, thrilled at the prospect of a family adventure. "What are we going to do?" Emma asked through a mouthful of muffin, eyes lit with curiosity. "We are going to create a family quilt," Agnes announced, her heart fluttering at the thought of blending their stories through fabric. "Each of you will design a square that represents something meaningful to you. Then, we'll sew them together to form a family quilt, a testament to our love and unity." Noah's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I do mine about the mural? It's our family's art." "Of course. That sounds perfect. I love the idea," Agnes affirmed, grinning. "Can I do mine about my dreams?" Emma asked, her voice brightening. "I want to show how I want to paint like Grandma." "Then what about me?" Lucy chuckled, mock stern. "Shouldn't my square be about the wildflowers I've grown and how I love to share them?" Rachel exchanged glances with Daniel, both realizing how this respective activity would involve not just craft but conversations that could release unspoken truths. "I think I'd like to reflect on our journey as a family, how we've learned to support one another," Daniel said, his voice steady. "I want my square to show the promise of moving forward." Rachel nodded, a small smile on her face as she added, "And mine can demonstrate our commitment to understanding each other, like two threads woven together." "Wow, I love how much thought everyone is putting into this." Agnes beamed, her heart swelling with gratitude and love. "I know all of you have unique stories to share and emotions to explore. Together, we can stitch our paths into something beautiful." With renewed enthusiasm, they cleared away breakfast and gathered materials. Patches of fabric, scissors, needles, and threads waiting for their stories. It felt as if they were preparing to embark on a journey, not just of creation, but of healing and connection. As they spread the fabric and supplies across tables on the porch, each family member claimed their respective corner, ready to breathe life into their squares. The sun embraced them, warming their spirits even further. Forks of creativity twisted and twirled, laughter mingled with calls for assistance, and delightful moments unfolded as they worked together. Occasionally, Agnes offered guidance on stitching techniques, tracing her fingers across colorful fabrics, and igniting stories of their past, intertwining moments of nostalgia with hope. Rachel and Daniel shifted into a natural rhythm as they navigated the project side by side, creating not only their squares but adjusting to their growing respect for one another. Since the discussion around the fire pit, unspoken promises drifted delicately between them as they engaged in collaborative creativity. "Do you think we can find a way to honor both our dreams in this quilt?" Rachel asked, eyeing Daniel's square. "I believe so," he replied, meeting her gaze with sincerity. "It's about weaving together our lives here, creating something more beautiful as a whole." As the sun began to dip, shadows fell playfully across the porch, illuminating the snippets of fabric that represented their stories. With each addition to the quilt, it evolved into something spectacular, more than just the sum of its parts, but a testament to the patchwork of their lives woven tightly together through shared understanding and love. Even Noah and Emma discovered a connection beyond family. As they cut and decorated their squares, their bond deepened. Together we can create the future we want to see, Noah said excitedly, decorating the edges of his square with paint markers. As the light faded and their laughter filled the twilight, Agnes marveled at how a single idea could transform into such a powerful symbol of unity. It was not just the quilt coming to life, but a reminder that even in life's chaos, they had each other to rely on. A fabric stitched with threads of hope, love, resilience, and countless stories yet to unfold. The day had blossomed into a vibrant tapestry of togetherness, a quilt not just in fabric but in heart and spirit. And for Agnes, this journey was about more than just sewing. It was about love, love that would bind them together, forevermore. The big reveal. The morning sun cast a warm glow over Agnes's backyard, and the air buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Today was the day they would unveil the family quilt, a beautiful mosaic of stories, dreams, and promises stitched together by love and creativity. After a week of gathering patches and sewing late into the night, the moment had finally arrived. Agnes stood in front of the quilt, her heart pounding with joy. Spanning a large table, the quilt was a kaleidoscope of colors, each square representing a cherished memory or a future aspiration. Her family had poured their hearts into it, and now, it was time to share it with everyone. As her family filed into the yard, warmth and laughter filled the space, mingling with the scent of fresh flowers blooming in the garden. Rachel and Daniel moved through the crowd, exchanging soft glances that revealed a growing sense of partnership, while Emma and Noah busily told their cousins about their creative contributions. "Are you ready, Grandma?" Emma asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. I can't wait to share it with everyone," Agnes replied, smiling as she hugged her granddaughter tightly. Just before the official unveiling, she gathered everyone, her heart swelling with gratitude. "My dear family, thank you for being part of this beautiful project. Each patch we created represents a piece of our lives, a reminder of the joy we share and the love that binds us." The group's chatter quieted as they turned their attention to Agnes. Today is not just about the quilt, it's about celebrating our connections and promises. Therefore, I'll reveal our family quilt, which beautifully holds reminders of who we are and where we're headed. With a flourish, Agnes pulled back the covering to disclose the quilt sprawled across the table. Gasps of awe and excitement swept through the family, as eyes widened at the vibrant display that now lay before them. "Look at all the colors," Rachel murmured, moving closer to examine the quilt in detail. Each square stood out, reflecting the individual stories, and she could see Daniel's dedication in his carefully crafted design. As they admired the quilt, the tension that had lingered between them began to dissipate. Emma pointed to her block, decorated with scenes of wildflowers and bright blue skies. "That's my square. It represents how I want to paint and grow like Grandma." "I love it, Em. It speaks so beautifully of your dreams," Agnes replied, heartwarming pride swelling within her. Noah stepped forward, excitedly pointing out his block, a collage of lines and words, the essence of each poem he had crafted over the years. "And this is mine. It holds our family's journey," he exclaimed, his face alight with pride. As Agnes moved around the quilt, she embraced each child, reveling in their creations and the stories behind them. Daniel and Rachel stood side by side, their own contributions quietly blending into the quilt, filling the space around them with color and meaning. Rachel's block depicted intertwined hearts, symbolizing their commitment to understanding and trusting each other. "I'm proud of us," Daniel said softly, offering Rachel a gentle smile. "Yes, me too," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "This project helped me realize we can weave our lives and aspirations together." Agnes embraced the unity that enveloped them as she moved toward the center of the quilt. "What do you feel we should name this quilt? It holds our dreams, our stories, and ultimately symbolizes our commitment to one another." "Let's call it the fabric of togetherness," Noah suggested, raising his voice above the excited chatter. "Perfect," Emma squeaked, clapping her hands. "It's what we really are." The family nodded in agreement, voices joining together in clarity. "The fabric of togetherness it is." With the name solidified, Agnes felt a wave of warmth wash over her, knowing they had chosen not just a name for the quilt, but a promise to uphold the essence behind it: love, unity, and connection. "Now that we've named the quilt, let's celebrate." Lucy exclaimed, feeling a surge of excitement. How about a family picnic now that we've revealed this masterpiece? Agnes smiled, delighted by the idea. Yes, picnic it is. Let's enjoy the sun, share stories, and continue weaving our lives together. The family spread blankets across the yard, setting out an array of delicious food brought together by everyone, just like the quilt. As laughter resonated through the air and stories flowed freely, Agnes felt a sense of elation warm her heart. It was the culmination of creativity and understanding they had sought to foster, an acknowledgement of how family bonds could be nurtured and expressed. As they shared lunch together, the children playfully teased one another while the adults exchanged stories of their past, weaving threads of nostalgia throughout the gathering. They promised to continue their sewing tradition and plan future projects, together. The quilt became a backdrop to their gathering, a testimony of their collective resilience, love, and creativity that echoed in every stitch. The kids gathered around it, tracing their fingers over each patch, feeling the weight of history and memories inscribed in every thread. Together, they reaffirmed their promises while rekindling the essence of family. In that moment, Agnes knew that the fabric of their lives would continue to be sewn together, not just through this quilt, but through the shared experiences, laughter, and love that they would bring into each day. The legacy of togetherness grew stronger, taking root in the hearts of everyone present. As the sun began to set, bathing the yard in golden hues, Agnes looked at her family gathered around, and felt the warmth of love envelop her. She had created not just a quilt, but a sacred space filled with cherished memories, woven into the fabric of who they were. Together, they would continue to forge their path, thread by thread, embracing the beauty of life and the power of family. New threads ahead. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window of Agnes Whitaker's cottage, casting a gentle warmth upon the table where remnants of yesterday's lunch still lay. After the successful quilt reveal and the joyous picnic that followed, the house buzzed with a warm afterglow, a serene reminder of the love shared among family. Agnes stood at the counter, sipping a cup of tea and reflecting on the transformation that had occurred over the past week. The quilt, a vibrant tapestry that now hung proudly in her living room, symbolized much more than just a collective project. It encapsulated the commitment to togetherness that her family had embraced, weaving their lives together even more intricately than before. "Can you all believe how well the unveiling went?" Agnes called, recalling Emma's and Noah's excitement as they had shared their stories with the family. The joy still simmered in her heart. "Mom, it felt so special." Daniel's voice floated in from the hallway, his footsteps approaching. "I'm so glad we took the time to be together like that." Rachel, who was tidying up the remnants from the picnic, glanced at Daniel and smiled. "I have to say, I was surprised at how much it melted away the tension we felt. The quilt really brought us closer." "I think we all needed that," Daniel said thoughtfully as he joined Agnes at the table. The door swung open, and Emma and Noah burst in, their faces alight with enthusiasm. "Grandma, we were thinking of dyeing some more fabric today. Can we?" Emma cluttered the words together, anticipation spilling from her every syllable. "Of course," Agnes replied, her heart swelling at their eagerness. "But remember, we want to make sure these new colors feel just as special. We can add shades that represent our hopes moving forwards." "I want to make my square for the next quilt," Noah chimed in. "It can have more layers and be even cooler." "I love that. We can experiment with different techniques to represent every part of our lives," Emma added, her creativity bubbling over. Smiling broadly, Agnes felt inspired as she surveyed the excitement radiating throughout the room. "I believe that our promise to take these moments and create even more together begins today. Let this be the start of a new traditions." As they moved into the sewing room, Emma and Noah helped Agnes gather materials. Pieces of fabric, dye, and tools for their next project. Rachel and Daniel exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. They would also remain present, encouraging their children's pursuits, reflecting their own renewed commitment to one another. They retrieved old cloth scraps and new dye, colors waiting to transform into something beautiful. The air filled with laughter as Emma and Noah shuffled through various shades, eagerly discussing their ideas and what they hoped to create. "Maybe we can make a wearable piece like a bag or a scarf," Noah suggested, his eyes sparkling. "That's brilliant." Emma beamed. We could use different squares from each of us and turn them into something that reminds us of all of our favorite memories. Agnes felt a rush of warmth at their excitement. This was exactly the spark she hoped to nurture further. Let's brainstorm collaboratively on how we can each contribute to make it special. As they settled down amidst the sprawling fabrics, Agnes watched with pride as the children bounced ideas off one another, creating plans that shifted and evolved in front of her. Rachel stirred beside Agnes, softly adding her thoughts, ensuring everyone was included as they solidified designs. Daniel joined in the lively discourse, suggesting patterns and color combinations that created an atmosphere filled with shared creativity. In that moment, the reality of their family's dynamic began to sink in again. They were learning to celebrate not just their accomplishments individually, but as a united front, emerging from the trials that had challenged them. This experience had transcended past struggles, evolving into fresh threads woven into the fabric of their family. Hours slipped by as they dyed fabric and shared laughter, the room buzzing with joy. Agnes couldn't help but notice how far they had come, embracing each moment with open hearts. As afternoon turned to evening, Agnes leaned back against the table, admiring the patterned fabrics they had created. The colors blossomed with vibrancy, each piece imbued with memories, joy, and their commitment to one another. "When are we going to start putting this all together?" Emma asked, excitement practically vibrating through her. "Soon, my dear. But let's take our time and let our ideas marinate. It all needs to come together beautifully," Agnes replied, her eyes twinkling. Once they finished dyeing, they laid their projects out on the table. Each piece stretched out was not simply fabric, it was a reflection of their personality and growth within their family. The sense of fulfillment rippled among them as they sat in awe at what they had accomplished together, a newfound perspective shared between parents and children. It was a continuation of their promise to nurture their connections, to always find time to share, to create, and to celebrate what it meant to be a family. "Today was incredible," Rachel whispered to Daniel, watching as her children reveled in creativity. "I can see the joy we create together. And it's just the beginning, isn't it?" Daniel kissed her forehead, a silent vow celebrating their journey ahead. As the last rays of sun dipped beyond the horizon, illuminating the sewing room in soft hues, Agnes felt a swell of hope. They were not only spinning new threads but charting a meaningful path that allowed them to embrace every color and fabric of their lives. This was their legacy, woven through laughter, love, and even moments of vulnerability. And as Agnes watched her family embrace their creativity together, she knew they were stitching a future filled with promise. Each day ahead held the potential for new experiences, new creations, and the ever-deepening fabric of their togetherness. A tapestry that they would continue to weave, thread by thread, through all of life's beautiful imperfections.